Hey, Carrie.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. I'm putting it on my AirPods. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, cool. So how are you today?
I'm good. It's a good day, actually.
That's nice. Is it work-wise or because it's January 20th?
No, I think I just had a good day, had good energy, and it was nice and sunny outside. I got to go for a walk, which is nice to always get out of the house.
Good deal. Hi, Katie.
Hi,
How are you doing?
doing good. A little tired, but good.
You sound like you just ran a race.
Oh, we've been nonstop stuff today. So it's like, okay, I'm sitting and finally figured out which computer I was on. All of our computers look the same. I did not grab my own. I grabbed someone else's, but that's okay.
Oh my gosh. Looks like somebody's joining us from out of state. Hey, Alexandra.
Hmm.
Can you hear us?
I'm in. Hi.
Hey, you're obviously not in the States.
Am I not? Oh,
It says,
LOL. Yeah. So this is my work Zoom account. Don't tell anybody, but yeah, it says Central Florida and USVI. I'm here. I'm in the US.
okay. We actually have somebody that may call in from the St. Martin or Virgin Islands. And
Cool.
so that's who I thought it was. Um, so anyways, okay, so let's get started. Do you guys need me to run through on how to access the dashboard, the Q&A form, and the Zoom calls? Obviously you're seeing the Zoom. Okay. All right. So we'll skip over that. And we do have a question for tonight, and I'd like to go over that first, and then we'll go over the assessments that hopefully you guys have been able to work through. So Carrie, you had entered a question that was about, and this is so common and hopefully everyone can benefit from this, but it sounded like why don't you go ahead and share your question, and then I'll give you some suggestions.
Yeah, so this is like a common issue for us, but it was also prompted by like reading my Enneagram type compared to Nick's. So I feel like I struggle with um, the fact that I end up doing a lot more around the house. And part of that is because Nick has been super busy at work, especially this past year. Like he's just kind of in his second year at his job and, trying to take over the business. He's a chiropractor. So he's, super busy right now. And, also I'm a girl and probably a lot more neat than him, but I feel like I'm struggling with like resentfulness with how much more I've been doing around the house. And, um, when he's here, like he'll help out more. And, like we've tried to like kind of assign tasks, like, he's in charge of the trash, for example. And like when he's home, like he does like to cook. So like he'll help cook and like clean up dinner and stuff. But a lot of times recently he hasn't even been making it home for dinner. So it's like, it's all falling on me. And it's not so much that I care for everything to be 50-50, but I would like it to be a little bit more balanced, or at least like the things that I ask him to do, I wish it wasn't such a struggle to get him to do it. And I feel like it's, turning into like me getting angry and like criticizing him or like nagging him when he like forgets to do something I've asked him 100 times. And he probably thinks I could relax a little bit more, I'm sure, or like wishes I wouldn't like, get so angry about like little things, but it's just kind of like building up. So I'm sure this is like common for people, and I have a feeling like I'm always gonna do more, as like the neater person and like the woman in the relationship. But just wondering if anyone else has figured out like how to better handle that and like not get so resentful and like critical.
So there's a lot that I can throw at you, and we can talk offline if you want to dive deeper on any of it. But this has come up several times in our groups, and there have been different stories. I'm going to share one story that was really interesting and very powerful because Nick doesn't want to irritate you. He loves you, right? And it only makes things worse when he doesn't help out, right? So he's not benefiting from not helping out. So there's something that's preventing him from doing this. So we had a couple one time where they had this thing with the dishwasher, and he would load the dishwasher. And so we're all thinking, she should be so happy, but he wouldn't load it correctly. And it got to the point where she was so angry, and Russ actually talked her through this exercise. And what it is, why does that make you so angry? Well, because he doesn't load it correctly. Okay, well, why does that make you so angry? Well, because it's messy, and it's not going to work efficiently. Okay, so but why does that make you so angry? And it's kind of like peeling this back, because it really isn't about the dishwasher. And after several several questions of diving down, it ultimately ended up, she said, when he loads it in a way that he knows, that is going to frustrate me, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, and I'm not respected. And I felt that in my family of origin, that I wasn't respected. I wasn't, like I was the youngest out of the family, and everybody just kind of railroad right over me. And so it helped him to see that, wow, okay, this is not about loading the dishwasher. She's perceiving this as a sign of trust, or excuse me, a sign of respect. And so he had compassion that he was triggering this in her, that he is not going to load the dishwasher perfectly moving forward, but he was going to try in that sense. I have a similar story where I hated it when my mom would clean the kitchen, and she would use this ammonia solution on this big, huge island. And we would just run out of the kitchen because it was so awful. But yet every night that kitchen, you could, eat off the floor. And I find that the rest of my house can be messy, but doggone it, that kitchen's gonna be clean before I go to bed. And I haven't put that on Russ to do that, but because he knows about that, he'll step in now and then and make sure that it's done. If I've had a day where I'm just like, okay, I can leave it, I don't care. He knows I don't like to wake up to it. And so it's really kind of stepping back. So there's something, if you find the trigger, it kind of helps develop compassion for why the person isn't doing it. Russ would ask me to do stuff during the day. I would never make a list. He's like, why won't you make a list? Because you end up forgetting to do this stuff. Well, the bottom line was, I told myself I would not get into a marriage where I was going to be an acts of service wife. So I showed him by not making a list, right? So the more you can connect things on why, the better. But if you can't get there, there's some very easy things to do in the beginning. So there's 3 things that I put down, and that is, 1, use a softened startup. A softened startup is basically, okay, he didn't take the trash out and he missed trash day or whatever. And instead of saying, the trash is, I don't know how you say it, but however you say it, you're going to start off in a softened startup, which is, hey, I've got something that I feel like it's going to irritate you, but I need to talk to you about it. And I don't want to get you irritated. Like you show up with compassion in how you start. The softened startup is huge, because the way a conversation starts is usually the way it's going to end. So the softened startup is the first thing. The second thing is use I feel. I feel overwhelmed because I've already done so many chores today, and that one I really lean on you to help me out with. Use vulnerability, because telling him, and you mentioned in your note about being critical, the only option he has is to be defensive. And you already know that. So use I feel statements instead of you didn't take the garbage out. So I feel overwhelmed. I feel hurt that we keep having this conversation. I feel disrespected. I feel like I'm trying to carry the load. And then the third thing is, do you have any suggestions on how we can better approach this? So instead of, if you feel like you're nagging, instead of making this, I told you, blah, 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 it kind of makes it a parent-child feeling, is do you have any suggestions on how we could do this differently? So for example, because what's going to happen is you're going to start to focus more on yourself and how you're doing things. Like, for example, I know that when the laundry's done, I can live out of the dryer, right? But Russ wants all his shirts hung and buttons, all the button. I'm like, just put it on a stupid hanger. But I will take his stuff out of the dryer, hang it, fold it, and put it away. So, but I can leave my stuff in the dryer. Like, so I'm trying to show him, I know this is important to you, so I'm trying to do this. And if all else fails, you continue to model what's important to you. But if you know there's something that he appreciates, it's like doing those things, even though you're not getting what you need, is modeling the behavior you wish he would do for you. So I just threw a whole bunch of suggestions at you.
That was helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions, or you're going to give it a try, or?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to think about these things. I think, definitely trying to say things in a nicer way instead of like getting mad at him if he's left the house and being like, you forgot to take the trash out, would be helpful. And just letting him know, like, I think it makes me feel like unappreciated, or like I'm important, or like he thinks whatever he has to do is more important than like, stuff that I've asked him to do. So,
yeah, telling him how it's making you feel.
Yeah. So I think we have some stuff to talk about, and definitely I'll ask him like what suggestions he has, or like how he can remind himself or something, so I don't have to nag him. That would help too.
Yeah. Like I told Russ, stop making a to-do list for me. Okay. Anybody else want to chime in on something that's worked for them?
So not something that's worked, but I think figuring out some of that before children is really good, because after children, it's a lot harder. Because I know getting everything done before kids was doable, but after kids, it's like, oh, wait, hold on. I didn't mind doing everything before, but it's like, wait, there's more to do now. So
Yeah.
I think having those
Good
talks,
point.
or things get, I don't know. So
That's a great point, Katie.
it's like, should have had those earlier.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Well, thanks for sharing your question, Carrie, and keep me updated.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll have progress there. Okay, so now who would like to share the results and any insights from the Break Free from Faulty Thinking? This one was about whether you're a personalizer, magnifier, minimizer. I'll start off just quickly. I'm a personalizer, so I can make everything about my fault. And they say usually personalizers grow up in a highly critical home. And so I felt like I had parents that were just, micromanaged us to death. And I always feel like no matter what, it must have been my fault. And then Russ being a magnifier, the reason why this test has been so powerful for us is when Russ makes a mountain out of a molehill, I used to, like, he would say phrases like, I'm never gonna ask you to do that again. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I'm just asking if we could talk about this. And the extremes felt real and true to me. So we would end up fighting about whatever he was magnifying. And it took me a long time to finally stop. So I have a quick little short story where I think I might have told you guys already. I bought an $11 book. Did I tell you guys this?
Or I
And
heard the story.
do what?
I think I've just heard the story, but yeah,
And he had a meltdown over this $11 book I had bought for when this workshop we would meet together at my house. And I was like, okay. So I just let him go on and on and on about it. And I didn't say anything. And I just thought to myself, this is intense. But I learned that, okay, I told myself he's magnifying. I need to let him spin out. He will calm down and then be reasonable. And it turned out that he thought I was buying 200 books for the year at $11 when it was only one book. And so anyways, it was his misinterpretation of the story, but it would have turned into a bad fight had I not just kept quiet and understand that that's his immediate go-to is to magnify. So understanding how our partner reacts under stress helps us to not, step into the dance with them. So that's why this test for us has been very powerful. How about you guys?
I'll go. So, and I'm coming to an awareness about something as you were talking. I'm kind of like Russ in a way. I have heard myself in several arguments say, I'm never going to do that again. And I think that's just, I don't know what that is. That's my way of like protecting myself. Like, I'm never going to bring this up again. I'll just never. And it's so irrational, but I hear myself say that. And I'm an Enneagram 2 and I'm a green. So I'm like Russ in that way. But, I think that when I was watching, the video, that first part of the module, I was thinking to myself, all of these things, personalizing, minimizing, all of these things show up in varying degrees in our conflict, all of them. And I'm not proud of it, but it's just, and I'm aware of it. And it's so crazy because in conflict, like I know these things, like I know you're supposed to use I feel statements, and I know you're not supposed to speak, in totality about, oh, you always and you never, but we get to that point in our conflict where it's just like everything goes out the window. And then I realized after I cooled down, I'm like, I've learned all this stuff before. I know this stuff, but what happens? I like leave my body. I like disassociate, and I do all of these things that I saw in the video. So I just need to do like that, like what is that calm, like breathing exercise, and like have more self-awareness in the moment to be like, okay, this is what's happening right now. We're starting to ramp up. We're having an argument. Like, I don't want this to become an ugly thing. But yeah, I saw myself doing all of those things, and him too, but me, right? Like, I know I do it.
And you could be like the perfect commercial for module 3, because literally what you're about to go into in module 3, you're going to learn a lot of foundational principles. But if I had to leave you with one thing tonight, and that was it would be to pause.
Okay.
The minute things ramp up, walk away, stop. But there's ways in doing that too, where the person doesn't feel abandoned, but pausing is the key to all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you're about to walk into the next, the next module that will help. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff.
I felt similar. I think I recognize like all of them coming up in our conflict as well, but I think I wrote down like the most that resonated with me was magnifier and generalizer. So I'm probably more like Russ and quick to like blow up and make something a big deal. And I think I a lot of times have like the pessimistic attitude of like, I'll believe Nick, when I see him actually like put it in action or something, which I think was like one of the examples. So I'm sure I could work on all of them too.
And we have a tendency to think that it's always going to be like that. And so when we're in that moment where our amygdala has been hijacked, we think that it's always going to be like this and we need to solve this right now. It took Russ a lot of practice. Being a turtle, like me is easy to shut down and go away. But for being a tiger and magnifying, it's harder for him to, kind of stop in the moment. It's like asking a football player to stop in the middle of a play, and say, just pause for a second. And, but it does take practice. And I do remember we were having a fight and Russ in mid-sentence caught himself and walked away. And it was ever since then. So it had taken years to get to that point. But when he started practicing that pausing, because I've promised now that I will come back to the conversation. That's part of the fear, was he needed to deal with it in the moment. And if he didn't deal with it in the moment, he was going to be very anxious. So his drive was to finish the conversation, where he's not going to get very far with me in that kind of mode. And so him walking away gave me the chance to come back and actually hear him and hear his side and, apologize for my part. So again, it's back to the pausing, but it takes some practice. How about you, Katie?
So I kind of was like everything I had one of. So it's like, I'm very diverse in it. But what I was it was hard to take, in part because I was like, with where I go with like most of my life, most of my relationships is different than where I go with my husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was weird. It's like, I don't know what it is, but it's very different in some ways on how I fight with like my family. So still people who have close relationship with. And then I also realized we kind of are opposites, like, because I can minimalize, I can magnify, and he tends to be like personalized and generalized. And so it was interesting for me to realize it's like, okay, so like, I don't know. It was just kind of like, I catch myself more. So I do the always and I do the never, but I usually follow it up with, I actually don't mean that. I just, like, I'm very aware of some of those words. But I didn't use those a decade ago with him, or even 5 years ago. It's just like over time, there's been things that have brought out more just my lack of self-care. So I'm not taking care of myself first, so I can get to that, like, not, the overtired is like, I don't have anything left. So I'm like all over the
You're
place.
tapped out. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, got to get back to the self-care, because otherwise the relationship just can't be what it is. And so the Enneagram 2, I'm like, oh, okay. I can see a lot of where our some of the conflicts that have arisen from lack of me doing self-care during most of our marriage. So it's like, okay, time to get better, because the reasons I'm better, it's like, oh, the fights just are different. So they're not really fights, they're solutions with them.
Right. And being an Enneagram 2, one of the things I've come to learn that I resented before, but now I understand the motivation of it, is Russ was on a phone call with a friend. He was on the phone with me. We're having this great conversation, and he goes, "Oh, I have so-and-so's, he didn't tell me who, but he's like, so I have to get this call." And I'm thinking it's work. It's, it's during the day. So I'm like, sure, go ahead. And when he got home, there was just something that I could tell that it wasn't a work call. And I was like, well, who was that call? And it was a buddy of his. And I was like, okay, that really hurts, because I felt like I was having a really in-depth conversation with you, and you switched over for your buddy, Mike. Like, come on. And so that was the before Enneagram reaction. The after Enneagram reaction is, he is motivated by being available for everyone else. Everyone else, even him, even excluding himself, which is why, the self-care that you brought up, both for you and Alexandra, is so critical. And his mom, you know, was always available. She was a VP of a stock brokerage, and she took both her son's phone calls in the middle of heated stuff. And so he grew up learning how to be available for everybody. And yet when you're available for everybody, you know, sometimes the people closest to you, you take them for granted. You're at home. I'm going to see you when I get home, you know? So I love how you were able to notice that the self-care will help you not have your cup be so full. Right. So that, again, this is why I think these assessments are so powerful. One of I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but the black and white thinking on the break free from faulty thinking, the black and white thinking to me was the most frustrating, because if the sky is blue, the sky is blue. It's not light blue. It's not, you know, like I could argue it's either this or that. And whenever you get to a fight, so Carrie, back to you and Nick and cleaning up, if it's either this or that, you're flooded and you're not thinking clearly. And you're going to hear more about this in module 3. What can you do when you're in the black and white thinking, when you're in the magnifying thinking, when you're in the, you know, personalizing thinking? When you catch yourself in that, it means you're emotionally flooded and you need to stop. And I'm going to show you a scientific way on how you can literally measure whether you're emotionally flooded or not. You won't have to guess. You're like, is this what flooding is? You're going to actually be able to tell scientifically. So I look forward to seeing how you guys like that. But because I come to this with 17 years of counseling, I never wanted people to feel like, well, oh my gosh, I have to go through 17 years of counseling to learn all this stuff. I feel like the assessments give you a quick catch up of bringing more self-awareness and understanding your motivations and what do you look like when you get stressed. That's what I like about the Enneagram. Did any of you look at, okay, I'm a 2, but when I'm unhealthy and I'm stressed, I go to this number? You guys look at that? What do the 2s go to again?
2 and 8.
2 and 8. Okay, that's right. So you guys get, you know what you want and what you need. I go to
very nice until we don't.
Right. Yeah, and for me, I go to a 4, which is moody and depressed, and I shut down. I wish I was more vocal like an 8, but you know, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, right? So it's good once you get to learn a little bit more about the Enneagram, because it doesn't put you in a box and say, this is always who you are, because you're always going to represent every number on that circle, but you're going to gravitate towards one of them. Carrie, has Nick taken it?
I don't know that he's taken this exact test, but he's a 7. Like from what he's taken, and that sounds
That's
pretty
right.
good.
That's right. And so 1s, you're a 1, right?
Yeah.
So you and I are the same.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Is that just we're opposites? You know, if you couldn't tell that already.
So when you're healthy, though, you go towards a 7.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. And I think kind of doing that made me appreciate, like, remind me of like what I like about Nick, or like what we have in common, you know, when I'm like my happy best self. Like, we have so much fun together, you know, we can go on vacation, have a great time together. And like when I'm, you know, relaxed and calm and stuff like that, like we have a blast. And it made me like appreciate that he does, you know, like offer that like in my life. So
yeah, and it's good for him to understand what happens when you go to a 4. You know, whenever you go to your stressful side, this is what exhibits, this is what shows up, this is what's going on inside of me. So like for a 1, we're so critical of ourselves. We have this inner critic that is super loud. So if Russ tries to critique me, I'm like, I already feel stupid enough. Like, you don't need to tell me. And so having them understand that helps the dynamics. So you both, Katie and Alexandra, you both are 2s. And you said your husband was a 9, Katie?
Yeah.
Okay.
the
So
peacekeeper.
so I'm sure he gets excited when that 8 comes out, huh?
I don't think he's ever been around eights. So, yeah, but and I honestly, for most of our marriage, it didn't come out much. I was more controlled, but he's seen it more. I think with my dad's health and stuff like that, there's definitely,
Sure.
we've had a couple of big things happen. And so he's seen more of it the last couple of years.
Right. And believe this is a crazy thing I heard early on, but that we're polite in our marriages the first 5 years.
Okay. I
And
was going to
then,
say about 7.
okay, but then
Yeah.
it's actually a compliment to how safer you're feeling in your relationship, because we're all going to have conflict. It's all going to come out. But like I said, I think the first time, the magic is in the repair.
Mm-hmm.
It's recognizing, taking responsibility. Yes, I'm a magnifier. This is what I, do. And this is, what I'm trying to do to work on myself, as opposed to telling them what they're doing wrong. That's the big key. So I say, take that as a compliment that, it just means you're growing closer and closer.
Okay.
Crazy, right? Yeah. Alexandra, what's Adam?
Adam is a 6. From the last time he took it, he said he's going to take it again this weekend. But from the last time he took it, he's a 6. So he's incredibly analytical. I'm not sure what the 6 goes to when they're angry. Doesn't it, like, it's a circle, so it goes like somehow to the opposite side of the.
Yeah, I should have had it opened. I don't remember. I have a close friend who's a 6, and I know they're extremely loyal, but they have a huge fear base.
Yeah. So, and then life experiences, family divorce at a young age, like there's that like chaos of safety, like am I safe, am I safe, like whereas like a 2 is always like am I loved, like am I loved, like am I feeling connected. His is like do I feel safe. And yeah, huge fear base for sure. So but he'll take it this weekend, so I'll let you know if it's changed since the last time he's taken it.
Yeah, it's such good stuff. Such good stuff. Did you guys have any questions? Did anything come up from the assessments or in watching the Russ video? And if you haven't had a chance, again, this is all at your own pace.
I haven't watched the Russ video yet. I don't know if my husband has.
Okay.
So I watched the Russ video and I wasn't going to admit to it because I thought it was for husbands only, but I watched it anyways.
You're welcome to watch. Yeah, you're welcome to watch it. I just didn't want the wives sitting there elbowing their husband going, see.
I did watch it and then I sent it in an email and it was very, very good. Incredibly well done. Yeah,
it really sums up life lessons he's learned the hard way, unfortunately. A lot of heartbreak there. Okay, so module 3 is up. It's a lot of the foundational principles. You're going to be learning about emotional flooding. You're going to learn a scientific way to measure that. You're going to learn about how to complain instead of blame. Again, using your I versus you statements. And so what I'm doing is in module 3 is giving these foundational principles. Once you hear them, you're going to be like, yeah, I know all that. But I will tell you that our counselor has taken me back to these over and over and over. And after a while, you're kind of like, oh, maybe I should start applying this. And I guess I was just really stubborn. But these are the 5 principles that have stood out the most for us and have helped us immensely. And emotional flooding was the first thing that we learned. And then using the soften startup, the I versus you statements, complaining instead of blaming. And then there's another assessment that's coming up that I call the Love Languages 2.0. And in this, I love this because Russ used to joke and say, "You're all the 5 love languages." I'm like, well, if I am, then where are my gifts? Like, I'm waiting. and he, what happened was, I never really narrowed in. I know I wasn't acts of service, but I never really narrowed in on any of those love languages. But the top relational needs, there's 8 of them. And you're going to be ranking them 1 through 8, because all of them are going to be important to you, but there's going to be ones that stand out the most. And there was one that stood out, that if I got that top relational need in any of the 5 love languages, I felt loved. So the top relational need, I think, dives even deeper, and it gives you more of a depth of the love languages. And if Russ shows me that relational need, I'm on cloud 9. So hopefully you'll get some more insight into what makes you tick. Hopefully your partners and husbands will do it and find out what makes them tick. But again, it's a good self-awareness exercise too. So that's module 3. Module 4 is going to be all about family of origin. Once you start connecting these pieces together, it builds so much compassion in your relationship, but it also helps you understand why you do the things that you're doing. Like, I didn't realize I was cleaning the kitchen up before I went to bed until Russ was like, "We can leave it till the morning." And, when I was on my own for 18 years, so no one was watching me, and, I didn't have an audience. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I really don't need you to pick out everything I do. And then module 5 is going to be the weekly check-in, where it's going to allow you to put everything together and have a weekly check-in that will drive such closeness with your spouse that we call it magic almost. I mean, we're spiritual believing people, but when you get to the weekly check-in and you can do it within the formula, it is so powerful, because you will leave that feeling loved, feeling cared for, being able to talk about really, really hard issues, and leaving it with knowing you felt heard and understood. So that's what we're leading up to. And so I hope you enjoy the journey. But you guys are getting a lot out of your investment from showing up here each week. So I appreciate your participation. And again, I'm always here on the other side during the week if you need anything. But before we jump off, I just want to see if there's any other last thoughts or questions. Okay. Don't want to make you too uncomfortable, but sounds like we're good on the technical side. Katie, thank you for that. Appreciate your feedback on that. And thank you for being patient. I had these calls in the evening before, and I thought with COVID, maybe I could switch them during the day, but it was too hard on everyone. So thank you for making the switch, and we'll continue at 8:30 on Wednesdays. And I appreciate you guys being here.
Thank you. Nice
All
seeing you,
right.
ladies.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye-bye.